What's this?
あなたは今 J-Rob の新しいドラムキットのプレビュートラックを聴いています。
Yes, totally.
Today we're with the man that needs no introduction because we're doing an entire podcast to tell you what he actually does. Mr. Aaquib Wani.
Yes, what's happening?
What's happening, bro? Interesting journey you've had as a designer and before that a musician. That's something that we
A
actually
failed
share.
musician, rather.
A what musician?
A failed musician because I
Failed
could
musician.
continue.
Yes, and a very, very successful designer. How did the journey come about from being a musician to a guitarist, part of a metal band?
Yeah.
Growler is what you mentioned.
Also a guitar player. But I'll tell you how this all started. I was in school and just didn't want to study, but wanted to do everything apart from studies.
Born and brought up in Delhi.
Yeah, born and raised in Delhi entirely, but roots from Kashmir.
Okay.
Which meant obviously you come from a traditional Kashmiri household where, design, no one knows what that means. Music, sure, folk music, but apart from that, playing in a metal band, that's a complete alien concept to parents, right? But having said that, in school, obviously growing up in a city like Delhi, you're exposed to things. And obviously thanks to my elder brother, he was the cool one in the family who would always be out there exposing me to things, right? And at an early age, obviously I got chance to expose myself to cool music, which
I see the younger sibling in you, by the way, now. We share that.
Yeah. Oh, he was one?
Yeah,
oh, lovely.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, he was the one. I mean, growing up only, I think as early as like second grade, third grade, I was listening to English music. And, in a school where majority of the kids were listening to Bollywood music, I was the one, listening to this. But yeah, it was fun to listen to all of that. And always, that was a part where I knew music since the very beginning. I knew bands. I knew listening to Beatles at an early age, listening to Eagles, Hotel California, all of that stuff.
What year was this?
This is, let's say, 96, 97, listening to Boyzone, Backstreet Boys, all of this stuff was, and buying those cassettes back then at 125 rupees.
Yeah.
Eid, at every Eid we would get paid as Eid and we would save that money and wait for the next set of cassettes that we could buy. 125 rupees ki aati thi, I still remember, and it would come with a whole booklet of lyrics.
Back then, what were the music stores like?
Back then, music stores were actually cool. It was something that we would always want to go.
Yeah.
And while we were going, I was, in West Delhi, which was Patel Nagar, where I grew up in. And there were a lot of these music shops where you could go and buy cassettes. And also CDs.
Was Planet in back the day? What was it?
Planet
called?
M.
Planet M.
Yes, it was. But it came much later.
Okay.
And Planet M also was the coolest because back then in music videos, a lot of times they would show Planet M. And it used to have this very cool CD player on the wall, which is where you could just pick your headphones and listen to the music.
Right.
Which was absolutely the coolest thing to just go and just check out music wearing headphones in a store, right? And that's something that we would always look forward to going and doing. But CDs were obviously expensive. 550 rupees ki tab aati thi. So it meant saving up for a year and actually getting that. And our very first CD that me and my brother actually saved up was the Black and Blue album by Backstreet Boys. And it also had a DVD within it. And that DVD we couldn't see because we didn't have like a DVD player back then. So 3 years later is actually when...
This is all jargon to me. Like this like DVD. What's my DVD bhi nahi go.
Yeah, growing up. I mean, I sound like a bloody dinosaur, but thanks to my elder brother, obviously I got exposed, access to all these things. But that's how my childhood was. And obviously, understanding the pop culture at an early age was something that I feel very lucky that I had that access as well, right? Being able to watch MTV at the early age, being able to, obviously you had cable TV back then, and thanks to cable TV, you'd randomly find random Russian music channels.
Yeah.
I still remember the very first time I heard Daft Punk was on a French
No
channel
way.
called MCM.
Okay.
And that was
Why did my cable TV never had this stuff? Like, that's so odd.
and it was one more time. And for us, obviously, growing up to see a cartoon music video was very cool. Obviously, growing up, cartoons is what you were really
Correct.
drawn to, and
Yeah.
seeing that and listening to that music, even all of this was very cool. And that's how we, in fact, got exposed to much more and more music, thanks to just these random TV channels, international channels that cable operator was just feeding us.
Yeah,
Here,
yeah.
take this.
That was, I feel, those were our local curators back in the day.
Yes.
Like, जो भैया cable चला रहे हैं, he's the curator.
That was incredibly cool, to be very honest. But thanks to those guys, first time I heard metal was 99, I think. I heard Metallica. They were
Right.
playing some song. I was instantly like, dude, that is so damn cool.
Yeah.
Watching James Hetfield just slamming it. And essentially, they also played this one concert called the S&M, which is essentially symphony and Metallica
Correct.
together.
Yeah.
And it had like a proper orchestra. And I was like, man, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, that was always something that's stayed in my head.
Yeah.
Cut to 2000, let's say 5 or so. Like I was probably in my 11th standard.
Okay.
And, my brother had taken up extracurricular activities as a subject, which is where he had taken up music. I had taken meal planning.
Meal planning?
That was ridiculous because I had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
Which essentially meant making food.
I get it.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, but never mind.
Yeah.
My brother had taken up music.
Home science, right?
Yes! Gajar kaatenge, salad banayenge. I got screamed at my teacher because I said salad. She said it's not salad, it's salad.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. Patel Nagar represent.
Yes, West Delhi, dude. But having said that, I'll tell you, like, obviously, my brother had taken up the guitar. He never really, got into it as much, and it was something that was just lying. I saw School of Rock, the movie, Jack
Right.
Black in it,
Yeah.
and instantly I was like, dude, that's my calling.
Yeah.
Instantly picked up the guitar, just like went on to it. I just started just
That was an
exploring.
iconic film.
Yeah, 100%. Still like listen to those songs those kids
Right.
made back then. But yeah, that was my time of just going back to picking up that guitar, starting just learning things. First tune obviously I learned was DDLJ.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the easiest.
to pick up.
So yeah, that gave me confidence that I think I have the ears to actually understand scales, understand music, and then slowly it just meant like playing along with the song one by one.
Yeah.
And then my brother's friends were there who were actually full-blown musicians.
Yeah.
So, I could just sit there and just ask them questions.
While they're jamming.
Yeah, and back then my brother was also, a vocalist for a band.
Okay.
And then I was like, this is great, dude. I'm getting exposed to all of this cool shit.
Yeah.
What is happening to Padhai? Nothing. 11th standard, results came in. I scored 47 out of 100.
What subjects did you have?
Commerce with maths.
Okay.
Which I...
Nothing to do with like design.
Absolutely
music.
nothing. I don't know why I even did that to begin with.
And not even like you had picked up the guitar back then, you had like home science.
Yeah. Ridiculous choices that I made. Obviously, clueless.
Yeah.
And I don't blame my parents either because, it was things that everyone wanted to do, which is take commerce with maths because
Correct.
dad was doing business.
Most acceptable. Correct.
Also that. So in the social setting also, you can't take arts because, arts to matlab, obviously it
I was an
stupid.
odd kid. I took arts, but I took it with
I
math.
wish I had because life would have been much more easier.
I think the stupidest decision that I made was to like take math with like all of the subjects that I did.
I had maths as well.
Yeah.
So coming to my results, I scored 47 on 500.
Huh.
Ridiculous numbers, right? And
47 on 500.
yes, out of 500, yes.
What are you saying?
So I was
How do
literally
you
like
manage that?
at the bottom of like all 10 sections.
Huh.
And I was just like, okay, and this speaks a lot. And I was already the youngest in my entire class, right? So I was like, fine, I'll repeat a year. And I repeated a year.
Amazing, bro. You have the failing a class, dropping out, something like that's going on.
That's not it.
Yeah.
It's not, that's not where it ends.
Yeah.
So obviously now you're like, same subjects.
Yeah.
Same class.
Yeah.
I know this shit, right? And obviously I'm full of confidence,
Yeah.
barely attending classes.
Yeah.
Obviously what's going to happen, like I'm just like in the arts class, helping my arts teacher. By this point, obviously I was already good at arts.
Right.
That was one point I completely forgot to mention. I would always make paintings. I was great at painting
Okay.
stuff. So that's where my art side always was a part of me.
But where did that influence come in from? Did you have anybody in your family pursuing art?
Talking about the influence, I'll tell you, my dad has his own business, which is Kashmiri crafts, right? So you would have all these artisans come over. At a very young age, they would come over, take brief from my dad to say, okay, this is what's trending. They would come back 6 months later. They would come and present something really stunning. And essentially, you would have stuff like, hand embroidered stuff. That would take them 6 months to create one piece.
So your dad's the real creative director.
Yes, absolutely. And also a self-made man. So for me, it was always like, things will work out. I've seen my dad from nothing to build his whatever, what he could in a, coming from a place like Kashmir to build his roots in Delhi and Bombay at the same time, right? So for me, it was always a major inspiration. But coming to the whole part of inspiration, it was those artisans.
Correct.
And I always wondered, they have never been to a design school. No one's taught them. But how are they able to create such great designs, great motifs, great color palettes?
Right.
Like what? Where does this come from? So that question would always, be there in my head. Always that, you need to have it in you to be able to do what you want to.
Absolutely.
Right? It was at the very early age of 6, 7 when I could see that. And I would always sort of try and mimic what they would do, be it try and embroider, because every time they would come, I would just sit and just ask them, okay, how is this done? Teach me, just show me how it's done. Like I would always be interested in learning things. That was one thing. Breaking old toys, creating something new out of it. That was where
Innovation.
I was. Just creating stuff was something that my brain was always tuned into. Unfortunately, never really something that I thought I should do something with that.
Correct.
Don't blame parents either, because they felt studies is the way.
Exactly.
This is just noise on the side. You can keep doing it, but get a degree and all of that. Coming to 11th standard, second year, obviously, spending time in arts class, sitting and working on annual day functions, creating set design for annual day functions. My very first, in fact, interaction with set design in school. Playing in the school orchestra.
Right. Were you realizing all of those things back then? Like, कि मतलब मैं ये करना ही नहीं.
Absolutely no, bro. I was just running away from studies is all I was doing. Results time back again. And this time I scored, I think 62 on 500.
What fun, bro.
I failed again. Yes.
Amazing.
No surprise. Obviously, I just didn't want to do it. I was just hating to be, I just hated, literally hated to study, like all the time. Like that was never a question that I wanted to study. And finally, I was like, okay, I can't repeat another class. Figured a way out, jugaad laga ke, got an admission into another random school where I could possibly, that's the, obviously the jugaad with the Indian system, you can manage to still skip a class without clearing one. A lot of kids did that back in the day. And I'm sure still happens, I don't know. Back then you also had Vadhva College. 10वीं 11वीं fail, 12वीं pass kare. Not that I went there, but it was
the tagline.
Yeah, you could literally do that. They would advertise it everywhere. But obviously I got into a school that took me, and you didn't have to go to school. Literally, you just had to sit for exams. And in 12th, I had 2 compartments. Even then, I didn't really clear it in one go. I think I just had again, some 42% in 12th, right? Okay. So now, obviously, to get into a college, you need even a 95 percentile doesn't get through into the decent colleges.
Exactly.
So I was like, man, 42%, 95% kid, we're the same, bro. I mean, it's okay.
Exactly.
Right? So I was just consoling myself in a way, right? But coming back to the whole point, studies was just not meant for me, right? But eventually I was like, need to get a degree somewhere or the other, because parents were like, you can't just. कोई बाप अपनी बेटी नहीं देगा, तुम्हें डिग्री चाहिए, करना पड़ेगा तुम्हें. I was like, fine. I enrolled into this open school of learning, which is correspondence is what it's called as, right? वो तो उसमें, you don't have to again go.
पहले पापा बेटी नहीं दे रहे थे, फिर पापा ने okay, correspondence करिए. फिर ठीक है.
So obviously for me that became a outlet to say, okay, still figuring out studies, we'll manage to get a degree in the end. And eventually, a year later, I realized I've missed exams. तो मेरे को पता ही नहीं था, exams आकर निकल गए थे. I was like,
what were you doing when you weren't?
I was fully into the band situation.
That's
right? That's where the band took off, and I was looking for musicians. We were playing multiple different cities. Back then, Rock On came into the picture.
Okay.
Not that I was a fan of that movie, but what that did, it became this catalyst for all college festivals to sort of do this thing called the Battle of the Bands, where young bands would come from different cities, play a competition. Winners would get, let's say, 1 lakh, 2 lakh as a prize fund money. And that would be like a good way to go out there and practice.
I feel like when these films come out, right? Like when you look at a Gully Boy or Rock On.
That was our Gully Boy.
Exactly. And that's a catalyst for change for the entire society, because your parents start understanding कि अच्छा ये भी है. Like if Ranveer Singh is doing it, then there's something there.
But we as obviously people who were lovers of rock music and metal music, we found that movie obviously trashy. We found that we felt like these are posers. We hated it. We all would go to forums on Orkut, trash that movie. Like, what the fuck is this? This is not rock music. What is this?
Yeah.
So obviously, as growing up, you know, it was cool to trash other stuff. Right? And for us, we were just thankful that because of a Main Street movie, we could actually go out there and get these opportunities, right? So that became a part.
What was the name of your metal band?
Called Phobia.
Phobia. Yeah. Interesting.
Scary. Yeah. But it was good fun to be in a band, to be touring different cities and playing in, all these college festivals.
Yeah.
Like my way of getting to college, such as your IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Bombay, NLS Bangalore, like the top colleges
would host these things.
Yeah, and you get to go there and obviously sleep in those dorm rooms on the floor, go travel in a sleeper class train.
Yeah.
मेरे को तो जुमे पड़ गई थी यार एक बार like that was ridiculous because obviously having no money, you didn't have the luxury to take flights back then. You had to travel in trains. I remember going to Bangalore it took me 3 days in a sleeper class. And my God, it was just the most harrowing experience ever. Yeah, but
it's for the experience.
Of course, I mean, lots of things obviously we learned on our own. Dunyadari samajhte hain na, that's how they say it. How to deal with people, how do you actually, because you're out there in the world on your own. So that's when I realized that, all of this. But how did I actually become a designer? I'll tell you, all of this was, a part where we were playing in a band. We also had shows which I wanted to promote.
Yeah.
So I started making artwork for my posters. Let's start promoting it. Let's start putting it on Facebook. Let's go to colleges and post. And soon enough, other bands were like, Aaquib, this looks great.
Yeah.
It matches with our aesthetic. Why don't you make stuff for us?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, money.
Yeah.
So instantly started making money using that and sort of built my name around the whole music circuit that, there's this kid who makes artwork, knows how to draw, can create a poster.
Right.
Soon turned into making album artworks. Soon turned into making merchandise, which I still do. So that's where I started from, and I still am connected to the same roots because that's where my art is. I feel that's something I truly enjoy. Now, just for everyone. If you're a young budding musician, please reach out to him. I'm going to do your artwork for free.
Yes.
Only because I know how difficult it is to shell out money.
Correct. And Aaquib really does this. Like, it's not like he's just saying it for the camera. I've heard from a lot of musicians, and you've branded a lot of festivals recently.
Yes.
And for pro bono, like even I think some maybe artists you work with.
Artists that I work with pro bono, but not music festivals because they have money. Why should I not make?
Yeah. But the rock music festival that you all
yes, Control Alt Delete, for example. It's for the people.
Correct.
Those guys also don't make money. The guys who make it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great initiative. And for us, it's only like there's something you also need to give back to the community, right? And why not, man?
Correct.
I mean, they can always have certain outlets where you can choose to not be money-minded.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. Agreed. So you did that. Okay, you branded for artists, bands, all of that. What was the next step after that?
So essentially, after doing all of that, I got a call from this music magazine called RSJ.
Yeah.
And RSJ was essentially called Rock Street Journal. It was the coolest place to work at. It was the coolest thing because they were a music magazine.
Right.
And they were talking about music that was not there essentially for you to explore because there was no internet as much as we have right now, right? There was no access
What year was this?
This is 2009 when I first got this. Okay. But the magazine was actually there since 1993. Started out in Allahabad and then obviously shifted to Delhi in Shahpur-Jat. So Shahpur-Jat, before it was Shahpur-Jat.
So Rock Street Journal started in Allahabad.
Yes.
So look at culture budding out from those cities also back then in the day.
And obviously the owner of the magazine, Amit Sehgal, unfortunately passed away in 2011, I guess. obviously things went south from there for the magazine. But then again, he built
An ecosystem.
yes with
Yes.
what we have now.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that a lot of people don't know about it as
Correct.
much because obviously the internet, how it picked up much later after that, right? So there's a lot of history that obviously has led to what we have.
Exactly.
All these concerts happening,
Yes.
all these international bands coming in.
Right.
RSJ was doing this since 1995.
Lots of contributors back in the day
Yes.
that have shaped the culture as to how we
Exactly.
see it.
And RSJ was doing this since 95. Apart from being a magazine, they were also an immense company.
Yeah.
And they used to have this event called the Great Indian Rock.
Yes.
And they were doing yearly competitions essentially in the beginning where they had tied up with, let's say, embassies. Whoever would win would get to perform at an international festival, which then soon turned into a music festival in itself. They dropped the whole competition model and then soon started having a lot of these international bands coming.
Lovely.
Again, for, with no internet obviously
Yeah.
back then, and whatever you see on the TV is what you're being fed, and then
Right.
to get to see live bands, English bands, and
Yeah.
not just your mainstream Bollywood music was very, very cool. This
Yeah.
is where your cool kids came back in the day.
Exactly.
All of them with piercings, tattoos, long hair. This is the culture. Obviously,
Yeah.
this is where all that came from
Yeah.
as well. And Pragati Maidan is where all of this would be hosted.
Okay,
mostly.
interesting.
And then soon it turned into a 3-city concert.
Yeah.
And then everything else is literally history. My first, job role at RSJ, when I got that call from RSJ,
Was a writer or a designer?
as a designer. So obviously they saw my work and they're like, Aaquib, why don't you, come work with us,
Yeah.
as an intern.
Right.
Started off working as an intern, turned into a junior designer, then went on to become a senior, and then became the art director of the magazine in 4 years.
Fantastic.
So obviously coming from a situation of failing in 11th standard twice, figuring my shit on my own,
Yeah.
learning Photoshop
Yeah.
on my own, like YouTube was my teacher,
Right.
and then be able to sort of obviously work, set up magazine, understand how page layouts are done. Everything was learned on the job for me, right?
Fantastic.
Even today, still learning on the job because we are doing new projects
Yeah.
every 3-4 months that I feel like, we should keep.
But I feel like that time to pick up a skill and focus on that one skill was not taking away from anything that you've done, but was comparatively easier because आज के time में like there are so many distractions, there's so much going on, there are so many skills to pick.
Yeah, 100%.
How does like one go about it if you're not in, say you're not in a design school, you want to pick up design as a skill, there's so many distractions. How do people go about something like that?
I mean, see, obviously there's so much that's out there as options, but I'll just talk from my own experience. I started enjoying what I was doing, which is when I went into it. And at the end of the day, it was also about making money because I was like, I'm going to be sitting idle and doing nothing. Right. So I was also in it for the money in the beginning, but slowly started realizing that I'm good at this.
Yeah.
I like doing this.
Yeah.
Which then sooner a friend told me, Aaquib, what you're doing is cool. Why don't you set up your own shop? Obviously, at that point, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And that obviously sort of stuck a chord in my head. And obviously 2018 is when I realized that maybe, yes, I want to do this.
So you worked with Rock Street Journal for a while.
For about 4 years,
Okay.
I quit that
Okay.
and then went to another job.
Okay. Which was?
I worked with this designer called Suman Jaikrishnan.
Okay.
Eminent in the whole art design, set design, designing weddings, big fat Indian weddings.
Yeah,
Where there
yeah.
would be budget worth 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 crores
Yeah.
for a single night.
Right.
Would take 6 months to set up one wedding.
Yeah.
Right. And would take up month.
Yeah.
One entire month from ground up to set up one event for 6 hours. Those are the kind of things that I was
देखो
exposed to.
एक चीज तो हमारे को premise में establish करनी है कि पैसा तो शादी में है.
Of course,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, lucky that I got to obviously take up these jobs, but I felt to be able to do these 2 jobs sort of shaped me also as an entrepreneur because it helped me understand how the back end of a design studio works.
Correct.
Or the back end of a studio works. So for me, in my head, I was clear, how to run a business also.
Correct.
I learned it while I was doing that. So spent about 9 years in working 2 different offices when I was like, okay, let's start.
Yeah.
With literally 80,000 rupees in my bank account.
Yeah.
That was it. But yeah, scary stuff, but exciting also at the same time.
Right. So when you started your design studio, what was that journey like? Like, did you have people that you were starting it with? Was it just you? Of course, it's just you because it's called Aaquib Wani Design.
Yeah.
but did you initially get some interns? Did you
Nah.
have jobs already that you were doing?
So obviously I started on my own and learnt whatever architectural softwares I had to on my own to
Yeah.
start doing, because I knew how shit was done. I knew people who would get it done as well, right? So initially it was just me
Yeah.
wearing multiple hats, being the graphic designer,
Right.
being the architect, being even an on-ground production boy,
Right.
staying up all night to make sure everything is done. So it's not like a graphic design project where you sit on your Photoshop, send email,
Yeah.
please find attach, and you get your invoice.
Correct.
With designing spaces, it's different. You have to be present
Exactly.
till the last minute, which is essentially dismantling of the entire piece.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean that's what initially I was doing, and my very first gig was with Homegrown.
Yeah.
And which was essentially to design a Halloween party
Lovely.
in Dhanmil. This is I think 2018.
Yeah.
And was good fun
I've
because
been playing that festival for the past 4 years.
I am
now.
aware, which is I was like great way
Yes.
to
Great job.
bring this one in as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my very first gig. Thankful to those guys that they were like
Believed in your vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was good fun to take up a warehouse in Dhanmil,
Yeah.
which Dhanmil doesn't look like anything like now.
Yeah.
Back then, Dhanmil was completely barren. You had just
Warehousey.
full warehouse, and there was just
Yeah.
cafe Dory back then, and just a bunch of warehouses.
Yeah.
And then there's this one party happening.
And that was the first project that you did as Aaquib Wani
Yeah,
design.
yeah, and everyone was like, dude, this looks damn cool. Obviously, made phone calls. I want this, I want this, I want this. And it was just to create a whole setting of
And
a
that's what I
haunted
love
mansion.
about like something, places like Homegrown, because they're like, you do you,
Yeah.
mostly, right? Like,
Yeah, which was great because
Yeah.
also they also come with a vision, which is where if you're, if your interests align, then obviously magic happens.
Correct.
So thankful to such clients that we end up creating magic together that
Yeah.
way. So that was my first gig. Then obviously people saw my work there, which led to other people giving me more work.
Yeah.
Dev Bhatia back then from Unmute Agency reached out to me saying, listen, all this looks cool. You want to work on something together? I was like,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Yeah.
And then this was a Star Wars themed party
Okay.
happening on May 4th,
Yeah.
obviously. And the idea was that, to create a setting that resembles, celebrates Star Wars. And obviously
Yeah.
I created this backdrop for the DJ booth, which is essentially inspired by the Millennium
Right. So
Falcon.
you still had the music piece going on. with
Yeah,
whatever you
and
were
because
doing.
I enjoyed that
Yeah.
space, right? So that was a place where I was like, I want to keep doing
Yeah.
all of this while we were doing other stuff as well, such as working with brands. Adidas
Was
in
your
this
work
case.
as recognized at that point in time?
So I'll tell you what, while I was doing these two jobs, I was always doing freelance on the side, which is what they call moonlighting right now. That I would go back, sit on my laptop and just finish other stuff for the bands, maybe work with clients, giving them logo design.
Yeah.
किसी की चाचे के बेटे का रेस्टोरेंट खुल रहा है, उसको मेन्यू डिजाइन चाहिए अपने ढाबे के
उस टाइम टीम थी नहीं थी?
नहीं, I was all by myself. I was doing everything on my own.
Fully on your own?
Yeah, I was obviously screwing up on projects also because you were taking up more than you could chew in that sense, right? And
But
sure,
all
we
of us do
learn.
that. All of us do that.
Yeah, and obviously that also helps
So
you
I feel
understand
like
your
one
capacity.
thing that a lot of designers, I speak to a lot of designers, right? Because we do a couple of things, say the restaurant, few things here and there. A lot of people don't realize that कि इतना काम and effort जाता है to actually build a design studio out. You need like experience across the spectrum.
100%.
And some freshers really out of college are like, okay, we'll start our own agency. Like,
Yeah. A little delusional, to be very honest,
yeah,
but great. I would fully support you for doing what you're doing, even if you want to start fresh. But it's always best to have some experience to get into the real world. Because obviously the world is a pitch to work with, and for you to be able to learn it, it's best to obviously start a place where you have cushion to actually learn from masters rather than you going out there and taking that hit on your own.
Exactly.
Because once you take that hit, it becomes difficult for you to even get back.
Correct.
And sort of understand what happened. And obviously I feel it's good that you take that challenge.
Yeah.
But it's always nicer that you come from an experience and then take that challenge.
100%. And I'll give you my example in this as well, right? Like, because I never worked a job. Like, I did few internships here and there, worked with OML, this and that. But like, I didn't understand the business aspect of things. And that was the major learning curve when I started my businesses, like whatever I've been doing, like that I don't have any actual business experience. मैं सिर्फ creative हूँ, cultured हूँ, इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि मेरे को धंधा चलाना है.
Yeah.
And that's something that you actually learn from working in different firms. Like, you need to be a technician, which is what you have, and then you also need to know how to innovate and like actually do the business.
I mean, 100%. I mean, the fact that I know all softwares that everyone in my studio works on, it's important for me to know how things are done.
Correct.
So if there's anyone's getting stuck, I can always come in. Obviously, now there are so many new softwares that I don't know of.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's always, every day is a learning. Keep reinventing yourself. Very important to keep learning newer things. That's how we keep challenging ourselves. And I feel challenges are something that are very important to a design studio like ours. If you're not challenging yourself, things will become mundane. It becomes very boring. And we don't want to be that studio where we are doing same things every day. I would rather shut it.
I'm still in 2018 when you start picking up these projects, that unmute project. I still want to know your story from there.
So obviously we built that.
Like this.
We worked on that Star Wars project. We created that Millennium Falcon cockpit. Everyone's like, dude, this is the coolest thing we've seen. I was like, good, man. I mean, I had a good time making this, but I didn't expect everyone to lose their shit on that, right? And eventually now then it became a piece where people started realizing that, okay, Aaquib Wani is not just a graphic designer. He does space design as well. He creates sets. He creates experiences. And soon enough, I get a call from Adidas that, they've got a bunch of events lined up. And back then, Adidas was doing a lot of these events to launch their pieces, which meant, for example, the very first one that I worked on was a very, very cool pitch that came to us. And eventually this pitch came to us saying, like, listen, Ultra Boost 20 is getting launched. It's a shoe. And this time they're tying up with the International Space Station, which is ISS. And the whole premise is that this is the first shoe that was tested in space. I was like, wow, outer space, this is my world again. Obviously, what happens as a corporate structure, they reach out to a bunch of different agencies.
Everyone pitches.
Everyone pitches, which is a ridiculous way of working, which is what we'll come to later. But obviously, we're like, fine, young studio. If we have to get somewhere, might as well give in our time and show them what we are capable of. Obviously, every agency was like, let's pick up this venue, let's do it here, let's do it there. We're like, you know what, let's build our own venue. And let's create that experience where we take people out of this world. Right? That's where the idea of a dome came in a picture. Right? And we're like, if we're going to talk about outer space, might as well create a planetarium. Right? And that's where the idea was different.
Where was this happening? Delhi, Bombay?
This was in Bombay. And this is where the idea was different from rest of the agencies.
This is not the one where Samarth played, was this?
Yes, this is the one.
This is the one.
Played. Yeah. So obviously, that happened where we presented a design, which is where we're building our own ground, right? Their initial budget, let's say, was 5 rupees. We came in with a design that would probably cost 20 rupees. Right? But I knew that. Essentially, my ideas, while presenting designs, is never look at the budget. Blow them away. Show them what you're capable of. And eventually, once they get excited, they will make sure they want to put in that pump in that money, right? And that's always something that's worked. Sometimes doesn't, but it's okay. But it's
sell
worth
the emotion, the work will come in.
Exactly, and that's what we did. And eventually they ended up spending that 20 rupees entirely, which was the
Adidas,
biggest.
Bro.
It was the biggest billing Adidas had done. And what we ended up creating was extremely, extremely cool, right? We built this geodesic dome in Bombay. It was a 2-day event. Obviously, first night was for the influencers, so they could market it out. Next day was for the general public, a dome, which you had projections on the entire ceiling. So it was literally like, you could also make your own content. So the dome on projection would open up. You would see, obviously, your spaceships with Adidas branding on it. You would see the shoe coming in. You would see, again, an astronaut coming with the shoe. Like, it was very cool to look at.
And this year was 2019.
Yeah, this is 2019.
And so when you went about, like, doing these projects, how did you get a team about? Like, did you get freelancers?
So obviously, by 2018, when I was trying to figure things out, I had people that I was reaching out to asking for help, right? And eventually I met Andrita, who you've also met. And Andrita was, I had asked her, can you, help me write this one email? And obviously she helped me write this one email. Essentially how that converted into a job essentially was like, I kept asking for emails because I wasn't someone who, English wasn't my first language back then. Obviously growing up, Hindi is how I would speak in school as well.
सब हिंदी में बात करते थे.
और मेरी English इतनी todu bhi nahi thi that, I could write well. And
Correct.
I asked her, can you please help me frame this? And the way she wrote that email was essentially like, oh my God,
Yeah,
these are my
basically,
thoughts. Payment cleared instantly. I was like, thank you, dude. And obviously I was like, can you please write one more? And then eventually that led on to her eventually asking like, listen, you're exploiting these services. I need to get paid. And I was like, okay, fine, let's figure it out. And that's how she came on board. And then we figured out, we were working with a bunch of freelancers back then. Realized that model wasn't working because not everyone would be there available for you when you get a project, which was very risky. Obviously put out job postings and then hired 2 kids, like freshers, fully freshers. Like, so it's literally me working with kids who don't know about the events world, right? So I'm just literally me guiding them, teaching them things on the go. And that's how we picked up the Adidas project. We created a presentation that blew their minds off. I remember I went into that meeting. I also went to that meeting with speakers. I was like, please turn off the blinds. Let's watch this video walkthrough. So it was a full, complete experience with music. I put interstellar music, so it became very, very dramatic. And that was essentially the pitch. And it was
where did this happen?
At the Adidas headquarters itself in Delhi.
Sick.
Yeah, in Gurgaon, yes.
Okay.
And that's how that came about. And they were like, this is great. And eventually we got that project and we worked on it for like a good 5 months. Eventually that happened. It was a great success. Most talked about because the kind of experiences that we gave, they were games, there were obviously the fan engagement pieces as well. You had, treadmill where you had to run for 108 seconds. Now, why 108? Because journey from Earth to the International Space Station is about 108 kilometers. Right, so 108 seconds you run. There's a light that goes once you run on a treadmill, and then if it reaches the goodie box, it opens up and you get a goodie bag as well. So
interesting.
Fun stuff for people to be engaged at a party with influencers. You would expect no one to get on a treadmill, right? Because they're like, we don't want to run.
So this is
but they ran eventually.
Oh, great thought. Because now the experiences that you see that a lot of brands do is the central focus is not the experience, it's कि content क्या बनेगा या influencer कौन आएगा. So what's your take on that? Like the experience needs to be for the final consumer. At the end of the day, right? But like these parties that are being planned, the experiences that these brands host, like are more centered around कि content क्या बनेगा. या influencer कैसा लगेगा इस पूरे ecosystem में?
See, back then 2019 wasn't as big as how it is now with the whole influencer was coming in and selling a product and it should be around the influencer. Back then it was also more about selling an experience.
Correct.
And the content would follow, right? For us, it was about creating zones.
Correct.
Let people make their own content the way they see it fit, but create it in a way that it's interesting enough for them to do it on their own. Now, obviously, you call influencers, you have a deal where you have to post so and so many number of things.
Correct.
Back then, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't as big as it is now. But back then, it was onto your design. It was good enough, they would post, right? So eventually, that was the whole idea that make something that's so cool that you don't have to make them do this.
Exactly. I feel like that process is sort of alienating now. Like
it has.
It's detached the consumer or even the influencer from what the experience is, and it's become a job.
It's become a job, and which I feel it has no heart to it, right? Then you're just doing it because you've been asked to come, you've been asked to talk nice things about a certain thing, and then post because it's there in your contract, right? Back then when we did that, you got like, let's say 300, 400 influencers coming, all of them talking about it. Why? Because the event was a success.
Exactly.
And that's where I felt like, we've sort of blurred those lines. Correct. Now it's about put whatever you want to, we'll make it sell because there's going to be an agency who's going to call these people.
But I feel like the final consumer is so smart, they understand that they can differentiate between the bullshit.
100%. That's always there. Like, you can tell this content is paid for and this is coming genuinely out of that, right? And it's also people, when they see something that's cool, it shines through. One doesn't need to speak highly about it, which is where I feel that's where we're headed to. And it just, everything can't be as good. Everything can't be pumped money into and then talk good things about it. But that's unfortunate part of it. But we don't really, I mean, obviously for us, the job is not for influencers to come and talk good things about our work. We don't do it for that very reason. For us, audiences are the people.
Correct.
Right? Not, obviously influencers also come into that aspect, but it's for the general audience
the
that
end
we make
consumer,
things.
Right?
Yes,
like,
of course.
Yes, experiences.
And for the client as well, to convert that into a piece that works for the client as well.
Exactly, absolutely. फिर but वो client भी end consumer के लिए तो बना रहे, like at the end of the day they need to sell the shoes to that person, and experiences need to be like a little more catered towards that person.
100%. I mean, for us, that entire dome that we had created was not just about a party. We also had zones that had visual merchandise, essentially a part where you had the shoe being displayed. You also had a full display of the previous Ultra Boosts that were out there. There were areas where you could play games for you to, sit inside an Ultra Boost as well. A lot of activities for people to be engaged within the product itself. So it's not just displaying a product. It was also about talking about it in a cool way. Like we had come up with this game, which is where you had to wear these astronaut gloves, and you had a shoe inside a case.
Okay.
You had only about 20 seconds to tie the laces wearing those gloves.
Yeah.
If you would not, the shoe would go down.
Oh.
So it was very cool to also create
very interactive
tech. Yeah, very interactive tech also that we came up with. We had created a very cool tunnel that had, a full sci-fi look to it. You had all these scientific, facts that we had looked at. The moment you entered, you had like a cockpit of sorts, big window. You had a massive touchscreen on which you could tell what's happening where. You click on something, it would show you a 3D, a 360, like full tech-driven, event that we created. Was very cool. We gave boarding passes for people to come in. If you did all your activities stamped together, you could stand a chance to win a shoe. Like, there were things that we came up with, which I feel now is sort of diluted because all you need to do is call in an influencer, pay them and be done with it.
Exactly.
And now I feel like, that's just...
So that's the journey that I want to know, right? कि मतलब ऐसे पिछले 5 साल में what has changed the way that you also plan your experiences and the way that people interact with it? Like, are you having fun with the new ecosystem? Are you doing the thing that you were doing, or you're also like कि ठीक है bro कि at the end of the day the project is कि influencer नहीं आके post करने तो उसी के लिए कुछ बनाओ?
Not really. I would still work the way I was working.
Correct.
Right? Because at the end of the day, a client would want to figure a way out how do they want to promote their show, right? Is it through social media campaigns, or is it calling in influencers and talking nice things about them? For us, we want to do our best regardless of how it's being sold.
Right.
That's not in our hands, right? So we will still give in our 100, 200% into what we do and still be able to create an experience out of it, right? So that's what will always set us apart as a design studio and not be worried about, let's not put thought into it because कल को client ने तो जाके बेचना ही है.
Correct.
An influencer will talk nice things about it anyway, so why should I? No, we don't do that. We'll still put in 100%. We'll still come up with cool ideas because these are opportunities we've been given.
Yes.
We need to make most of it. We are not going to take it lightly. We're not going to take this for granted because at the end of the day, people are being paid to talk nice about it. So we don't do that way because I feel that will just be a disservice to what we are born to do, what we are capable to.
Correct. So 2019 happened, then 2020 when all of these big projects were going on, then COVID hit, and then what was your COVID time like?
My God, COVID time, obviously 2019, we felt we were in a very good space. Right? We were doing Auto Expo. We were doing NH7 Weekender. NH7 Weekender was at its peak. 10th year, and obviously doing both Shillong and Pune, doing this, doing a wedding, doing Gene Explorers Club back in the day. Everything's happening.
And you were growing your studio.
Was growing, yes. We were 4 people at then, just 4 of us. Obviously getting extra hands to get more things. COVID hit and essentially we were like, okay, let's see where this goes. But at the same time, this is the time when we had moved from a co-working space into our own studio. And I was like, that was the part when I was like, oh shit, did I make a mistake? Because the news was floating all around anyway that there's this pandemic, there's coronavirus, but no one knew that it was going to change lives forever, right? I was, this is March, sometime 15, 16, still remember 2020, putting in the last chair in the studio. And then obviously Modi ji on TV comes, announces there's going to be an indefinite lockdown for like whatever, I think, not indefinite, for good 2 weeks, 3 weeks, he said no one's going to step out.
Exactly.
And I was like, no way. I've bought TV, microwave, fridge, कुर्सियाँ लगा दी हैं, पेड़ पौधे लगा दिए हैं. अब घर से बाहर नहीं निकल सकते, मैं इस ऑफिस का क्या करूँ? खर्चा है, इतना कुछ, like I spent savings to do this, and I was super excited
and
about
everything that you've done has been self-funded.
fully. Like it's not no one's coming and be like, or having a rich dad to be like, beta ye lo, koi baat nahi, lao mere paise. No, none of that, right? So it was a risk that I took, and because I was in a very confident space back then, because having worked on these cool projects, I knew it's only going to grow. And obviously, coronavirus came in, and things was completely, it stopped. And I was worried that, do I need to give up on this space? Or do I need to look for a job now?
Yes. It's the same studio that you have currently?
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously I stuck by it. I didn't give up on it.
Yes.
But there were thoughts where I was like in the middle, do I need to give this up?
लोग आ रहे थे उस time office नहीं आ रहे थे?
No, it was completely shut. But I had to keep coming in between because I had taken up plants, and I would come wearing double masks on a cycle, water them, and go. And I was doing that every
You're
3
eclectic
days.
like that. You cycle and all.
Yeah, I was
love
doing
that,
because
bro.
back then had to get into the whole health zone.
Yeah.
So was the entire world.
Yeah.
And every day coming on a cycle because गर्मियाँ थी 45 डिग्री गर्मी है अप्रैल मई है और रोज जाना पड़ रहा है पानी देने. It's not like was a big task, but then again I enjoyed doing that just to ensure the money I invested wasn't going waste. But having said that, obviously coronavirus was a part where I was like, okay, didn't expect this to happen. What do I do?
Most of the projects back then that you were doing were more experiential.
Yeah,
And
experiential. Also, luckily, it was also that we had I was a graphic designer at the start of it, right? So I could still do branding projects, which meant I could still do things that didn't need a physical presence with the kind of work we was doing. So I could still do branding projects, right? So there were still brands wanting to do branding work. Sure, the pay was little because everyone was like, guys, aisa bachana hai. No one knows the future tomorrow. So thankfully, we could make a little bit of money here and there to still survive.
Right.
And
what were the kind of projects you were doing back?
मिठाई का डब्बा बना रहा था मैं किसी के लिए.
सही है.
Random projects just to stay afloat.
Correct.
But at the same time, things were looking bleak because again another lockdown, and then you're like, what am I supposed to do with this, right? Opened up an account on LinkedIn. What did I do? Look for jobs. Applied for jobs. I made a CV for the first time in my life in COVID because I was like, you have to survive. I can't be like, okay, I have a design studio, I can't do this. I can't behave like, okay, all of this is beneath me. I can't behave like, this is not meant for me. I went back to my roots in that very moment. Sure, nothing worked, but at the same time, I was working on concepts. Multiple different things. What if events were to happen in COVID settings? So we were making that with the team. Can we think of a setting where, we are sitting in our cars and looking at a concert? Can we sit in our cars, look at a movie, still be able to sell? So I was selling those concepts to our partners. I
love that mindset that you have, that you were like, okay, I'll go. If I need to do a job, I'll 100%. Fucking do a job, which is a mindset that is not instilled in a lot of these young designers that I keep telling you about. Okay, freelancer, nahi, hum apna studio kholenge, we won't do a job, we won't do this, we won't do that. But like a guy like Aaquib Wani in 2021, at the peak of his career, can look for a fucking job. All of these designers can look for a fucking job.
I mean, to me, I feel no shame in looking for a job at any given point. Why not, man? If you have to change your way around to sort of continue what you're doing best, might as well do that, right? So I was literally looking for jobs. I opened up a LinkedIn account. I started posting back then. And now my LinkedIn has become a thing. I post things and I have like people.
Also your Instagram, by the way, like is a thing. We'll come to it.
Yeah, so I was literally looking for jobs on LinkedIn. Made a bloody resume for the first time in my life. Putting in together my portfolio, all of that I was doing.
Were the companies jizzing? Were they like, oh, itne sare Adidas, this, that, like fucking 15
Sometimes all of that also plays against you because they think you're way out of their pay grade. But at the times, I was also trying to look for something where I could, give my expertise where I could do best. But most of those were a lot of those corporate setups where I felt this is not the right fit for me and for them. So I would rather not do that. But at the same time, we were still keeping ourselves busy by thinking of these concepts that we could do. So I was like, you know what, let's come up with an exercise. What if we were to design 5 thematic weddings, right? Let's start from scratch. Let's not keep a budget on our heads. Let's not have a brief on our heads. But these are 5 concepts. So obviously that builds up our bank of ideas. Let's think of 10 installation ideas for festivals because these things would come in handy later. Let's think of similar ways to, can we think of invites? Can we think of logos? Like, just hypothetical situations that we
Right.
could work on
Yeah.
that could come in handy later. And now, obviously, by the time COVID got over, we had this bank of ideas, with
Correct.
us, right? Which is what we were sitting on, is what I like to call the landmine, the gold mine.
Yeah.
And essentially,
Think
things that we
landmine also boom. Like it
yes.
just goes
So
off.
obviously that helped for me, because then I still go back to it and be like, okay, I still have these things. So if there are times when client will be like, Aaquib, there's something new coming up, would you like to take it? But the thing is, the deadline was yesterday, and I'll be like, you know what? I
We
made
got
it
you.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I have it covered. So that way it helped me be ready for things and
Yeah.
be ready with, like, you know what, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I have the capacity, I have got stuff to show you. So we are prepared for things, even for timelines that are very short.
Yeah.
We are prepared for things, to sell things that a client would not know what to do. So that way we are thinking of 10 steps ahead, even
Yeah.
10 steps behind that way.
Yeah.
So works very well.
So guys, if you're looking for like any new upcoming brands that you're building, Aaquib's already done the work. You can just reach out. Okay, so then that happened. Let's talk about some of your key projects that you've done.
Yeah.
The Isha Ambani wedding.
Yeah.
Can we plug that in?
Of course.
How
we
was that
could.
experience like?
So 2018, when I quit the job.
When did she get married?
2018
Okay,
itself. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And when she got married, I mean, obviously, I'll talk about from the scratch itself.
Yeah.
So obviously, no job.
Yeah.
Get a call from an ex-colleague, right? And people who sort of knew what I was doing.
Right.
And this guy calls me up and he's like, listen, there's a wedding. You need to pitch for it. I was like,
Right.
sure, खाली बैठा हूँ, pitch भी करूँगा,
हाँ.
झाड़ू भी मारूँगा, क्यों नहीं? And that's when I got a call saying, like, there's a pitch you have to do, शादी है, but the catch is that at this wedding, this is a संगीत. और संगीत पे आपको ना एक एरिया डिजाइन करना है जहाँ आपको पवेलियन बनाने, जहाँ लोग आके चीजें खरीदेंगे.
Okay.
मैंने कहा ये कैसी शादी है?
हाँ.
शादी में तो जाके लोग, usually they go and
Wedding
obviously
gifts, yeah.
yeah, and essentially go there to eat,
Yeah.
drink, dance, go back home. But to make people come and obviously buy stuff was not what I thought would be. But I was like, fine, जो भी है, मेरे को तो पता नहीं किसके लिए. I was like, fine.
दुनिया बकचोदे करते रहे मतलब करती हैं.
I was like, I will do it. I went into it and I designed something and I presented it. And, obviously I was like, whatever, man. People have ideas.
Yeah.
Might as well give them what I think of this idea. I gave it my spin. And then 2 weeks later, I got a call saying, Aaquib, your idea has been chosen.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, fine. Tell me who it is. They're like, it is the man. It is the son of this country. It is Mr. Mukesh Ambani's daughter's wedding. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't tell me this, because had I known this before, I would have definitely had performance pressure and I would have probably shat all over
Yeah.
it. But, obviously came on board as the art director for that entire piece, which was Swadesh Bazaar. It was a Reliance Foundation-led initiative, which is where they were presenting 108 crafts of India. And, that's what our idea was, to create pavilions for each of these crafts. Thematic based, like you would have a pavilion for Krishna. Everything Krishna would be in that, like from paintings to, having carved out pieces. You would have one major pavilion that would have only one pieces of everything, which meant, I looked at this one, Veena, the instrument, which was carved out of, sandalwood. It was the most expensive thing that I
Auction
ever seen.
items.
Yeah,
Sort
literally.
of,
So,
yeah.
your guests could come buy it and all proceeds would go essentially to the crafts people directly.
Okay,
And that was,
directly.
yes, and it
Lovely.
happened, and which was great that,
Yeah.
I felt like they also obviously gave gift coupons for their guests so they could still take something back home, and the artisans could also take something with them. So, obviously, there is stuff for rugs.
Ambani's are thoughtful people.
Very much, and I really appreciate that fact about them. Not getting paid to say this, but
Yeah.
really cool initiative to see that you could have. We also thought of experiential zones because they have international guests coming
Right.
in. Hillary Clinton was there. She
Yeah.
kicked us some stuff.
You were
Obviously-
there? You were around at the wedding?
Yes, I saw her.
What was the experience like?
It was literally running into. It felt like at an IFA Awards, as
Yeah.
if I was there, and you have all celebrities around. Like,
IFA plus like
Yeah.
IFA, Golden Globes, Oscars, थोड़ा सा सब जोड़ा हुआ है.
good fun that way, but yeah, it was great to sort of create that whole entire space
Yeah.
and for us to also experience something of that scale, because that was the first time. It was my very first break.
Yeah.
When I went solo, right, and that's what I was doing. Yeah, it was very, very interesting having experiential zones, creating all of that, everything under me, taking calls on things, and didn't know how big of a deal that was.
Right.
And I was just doing because I was so engrossed in it, so into it. I was
When
having
you
a
go
good
back
time.
home to your parents'
Yeah.
parents' house, and you tell them you're doing all of this, what is their reaction like?
You know, I know for a fact they low-key, obviously they are very, very proud, but they don't show it.
Yeah.
Which is very cool that, you know, because they also feel like, you know, let's not jump the gun, let's not be ahead of ourselves and start celebrating. It's good that what you're doing is nice. They're proud, obviously, of what I do.
Yeah.
They're proud of the fact बच्चा गलत कामों में नहीं लगा, कुछ कर रहा है and is making a name for himself. Obviously, years later, Forbes 30 under 30 happened, is where things completely changed for me, because I was in major.
This was Asia.
India, right? And I was in like every damn newspaper at that point, because I was also the first Kashmiri to be on that list. And obviously,
I remember you posted something about this, that Forbes 30 under 30 is fine, but like when you get featured in a Indian Hindi newspaper, that's where the change happens.
I was actually featured in a local Kashmiri newspaper, right? And obviously, for parents, that's what the changing part was. For them, Forbes, हाँ होगा कुछ.
Exactly.
But to be in a local Kashmiri paper and a full-blown page article,
come on,
that was a big deal, because all relatives are like, आपका बेटा, वाह. Obviously, you know, the things change, because growing up, the same relatives would make fun of me, because they'll be like, क्या आपका बच्चा है, क्या तानपुरा लेके शादी में बजा रहा है, कुछ उसे बोलो ढंग का करे.
Correct.
Obviously, things change. Now, obviously, the same relatives come to me saying, can you guide our kids to help them, you know, with what design field they should go at, right? Obviously.
It's not even design after a point, right? It's just like you've done work, again, like across the spectrum, so you understand our industries.
100%. Like, you know, I feel put me in any circumstance, be it any kind of work, I'll figure my way out.
Exactly.
That's one thing I've sort of learnt with my own self as well, because now we end up doing so many different projects that we have never done before.
Correct.
But to be able to take that on and to be able to successfully deliver it is something that I've realized. कुछ भी करने को बोलो यार, कल को आप बोलो मुझे न्यूज़ you know एक एरोप्लेन का इंटीरियर करना है, I'll figure my way out, I'll do it, I'll do this properly the way it's supposed to be done, right? Last project, we were show directors for Pratik Kuhad's entire tour. Never done anything like that, but it was a great successful tour. Everyone talking about it. Like,
No, but you've done festivals.
but this is not a festival, right? This is a solo musician concert, which is where you're not just looking into a concert design, but you're also looking into what he's wearing, what are the visuals. There's a full storytelling. There's a full show running happening where everything's done as per a cue. Never done that, but it went perfect.
Yeah.
Everyone happy, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is not to know what you're you know, good at, which is essentially design, but also to be able to convert your own skill set, which is taking on a challenge and be able to deliver that.
You keep coming back to music in general, like with your career, like that's something that you've never let go of.
I think that'll go to my grave with me.
Yes, amazing. So what is the kind of music that you actually listen to like these days? What are the influences that help you with your work as well?
So
Something inspiring.
it's always been a mix of everything.
Okay.
Obviously, majority of it has been heavy metal, because playing in a metal band, it was something that shaped me, my thoughts, and obviously a part of me will also listen to a lot of pop music, a lot of Bollywood music. I still listen to all of this. I don't find Bollywood music cheesy. Not saying this because of, you know, trashing Bollywood music is cool, or I'll still listen to a Diljit. I went for the Diljit concert also.
Yeah.
Did Bhangra with people I didn't know. I was having a great time purely because I love it. I love music. And music to me is something that I listen to all day long.
Yeah.
Be it bathing, be it pooping, music will be on. Be it working, be it just being on a flight, there'll be music on me all the damn time. And that's something that is something I
Not
can't live without.
regressing from your other key projects as well. So that it was the Isha Ambani wedding.
Yeah.
Then more recently, the Indian team jersey.
Yes, before the Indian team jerseys,
Okay.
I also worked on another Ambani wedding, which was Akash Ambani's wedding.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so obviously once we did that, there was an agency called WDC. They were taken up as the design team for that wedding, and they reached out to me for an art director's opening at that for that wedding, purely because I was known for doing these big scale sculptures and installations as well, and essentially took that on for the entire wedding. So that was also a great project to work on. And for that part of it, which is where I was, you know, literally stationed out of Bombay for 3 months, and literally going to that house of theirs, which is Antilia, and sitting there doing meetings with them one-on-one.
Yeah.
You know, previously I wasn't sitting with the clients right away, but this time I was sitting with the family.
As the art director of the wedding.
Yeah, right. So it was great to be able to work on that hands-on with the family as well, and to be able to do things. Lots of things we learned, obviously. Big stakes obviously involved in this, but we came out, you know.
Where did
successful
this
out of
wedding
this.
happen?
This happened at the Geo World Convention Center.
Okay.
Which is that entire piece, which is what is.
I
and
love
CC
the Ambani is how they're like, okay, we'll build a new thing और हम ही launch करेंगे अपनी शादी करवा के. They're like,
And back then, you know, funnily, none of it was built entirely, but they had made sure the ground floor was ready. So it was a great experience to working with them. Absolutely, you know, mind changed at that point.
And they are people that like culture. Like they understand what they're called.
Yes. Which is great for the entire ecosystem also, because it allows us as designers to also come and shine.
Yeah. Pranay, can we have the jersey?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Let's talk about these. What jerseys have you brought for us today?
So I have 3 of them. One of them is also for the Olympics one. This is what we did for Olympics.
Lovely. Aaquib Wani is not a fucking joke, guys. Like, this is some real shit.
This is national level stuff.
Yes. Is the experience of designing these things the same as other projects, or like you feel like a sense of like nationality and pride when you do all
100% nationality and pride comes. Hey, it's got my name on it.
Yes.
I got a gift. Samarth gave it to me, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Samarth's a fucking sweetheart, bro.
Yeah. My
Eclectic but a sweetheart.
Yep, my boy. So obviously, I'll come back to how all of this happened.
Yeah.
So all of this goes back to, let's say, 2017, when I had this fake Burberry jacket.
Yeah.
Didn't want to part ways with.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, can we do something exciting on it?
Yeah.
Was sitting idle, thought of reaching out to a local sign painter, जो रोड पे दीवारों को पेंट करते हैं ना, to write ads. फेविकॉल का ad लगा दिया, आज अंबुजा सीमेंट का ad बना दिया,
ट्रक के पीछे पेंट कर दिया,
और ट्रक के पीछे पेंट करते. You know, these are the guys. I was like, can I reach out to these guys and give them, you know, this jacket, and give them a direction, make flowers, make snake, make do this, do that, do this.
When was this? Come again?
2017.
Okay, back in the day.
Yeah, 2018. Sorry.
Okay.
And essentially, you know, obviously got the jacket and also asked him to, can you put me initial A?
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, kya farak padta hai? Let's see where this goes. And you know, I was like, it came to me, I put it up on my Facebook, and it went viral.
Okay.
Everyone's like, boss, we also need one.
Yeah.
This looks damn cool. I get to know that, you know, there's an interview I did with Homegrown about it, and then the article reads, Aaquib Wani is reviving traditional crafts in India.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I was doing that.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a cool way to sort of...
Title, yeah.
Yeah, and I plugged an idea in my head, and I was like, maybe I do want to do that.
Yeah.
And soon enough, obviously, I started working with these grassroots level craftsmen from different cities, because we'd be traveling for work. I would always find local craftspeople somewhere or the other and speak to them and buy art from them. You know, even during the Isha Ambani wedding, I was there in Udaipur. I reached out to a pitchwai painter.
What's a pitchwai painter?
Pitchwai painting is essentially a craft from Rajasthan itself, which is about, it's got a lot of these trees. It's got a lot of cows. It's got a lot of. It's a paint. It's a form. Yeah, you know. So this is a painting. A lot of lotuses as well.
Right.
And I told them, listen, this is what I do. Do you want to do something fun? And they were all very excited, because unfortunately, what has happened with the craft sector in the country, it's sort of become sidelined because of obviously how everything is digitized.
Digital media, yeah.
Yeah, and how everything has become a fast fashion, how everything is just like moved on from all of this, and it's something that's been taken granted for. And I felt like, you know, it'll be great to work with these guys, make them also excited about something. And they were very excited.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that I realized in between working with these guys was also that, you know, unfortunately they had to take up different jobs because they were not into it anymore. They weren't making enough money. A lot of national awardees had become auto drivers.
Yeah.
They were working as house help. And that was very unfortunate to know, because national awardee painters, such immense talent, but what are they doing? And obviously at that point I was not someone of what I do now, but in my head I was like, you know, it'll be fun to still do something with them, keep them also engaged with what we do. And obviously I would go to Chor Bazaar, get some random jacket, give it to them, paint, and then put it up on my social media and became a thing. Aaquib Wani is doing all of this.
Collaborator.
Yeah, and then it became a thing where I was just making custom wearable art and essentially one piece, and then ended up obviously taking whatever money would come would go to them, because for me I was just like, I'm enjoying doing this. Doesn't matter. Let them make money. So at least they are also excited about this. Right?
Correct.
Obviously, initially I was a little confused. Maybe they don't want to do this because it's unconventional way of an art piece for them. They're not used to painting on jackets, right? Or shoes for that matter. So soon enough, all of this converted into brands coming to me saying, can you customize this for our next campaign? Can you customize this jacket? So Adidas came, Gas jeans, Super Dry, did a lot of these activities around all of that time. So that's how I, sort of became this person who's doing stuff with clothes.
Yeah.
Adidas in 2019 reached out to me saying, listen, we are pitching something with Khelo India and we want to do jerseys.
What is Khelo India?
Khelo India is much
the campaign.
like,
Okay,
like
right.
a lot of basically states coming together to compete with other states. Right. All kinds of sports, like Kho-Kho, be it hockey, be it volleyball, all sports together. Like that's a big, inter-state tournament in the country. And that's when they were like, we want to film this tender. And would you be interested in doing something like this? Now, obviously, in my first time in my head, I was like, kabhi nahi kiya maine. But in my head, I had seen the Nigerian Nike football jersey back then. And it was a very, very cool jersey. It reflected their culture and tradition in that one jersey itself. And I felt like this is extremely cool.
Yeah.
Given a chance, I would love to do something like this. And when I got to do that one tender, that pitch, unfortunately it didn't come through. But what I learned out of it was I had a great time doing it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't have the means to actually sit and go around, build a custom silhouette for a jersey. But using whatever Photoshop mockups were available on the internet, I did my thing, which is essentially every state had its own artwork. Right? Every state's artwork was essentially coming from their roots, their culture, their history.
Yeah.
And that I felt like, was a very cool idea. Unfortunately, obviously, COVID came in right after. All of that conversation died down, but those concepts that we had come up with were very cool. Like essentially for me, I felt like, this is where my graphic design aesthetics came in, and sort of felt good about it, even though it never went anywhere. Cut to 2022, I think, 656 guys reached out to me. Ambani reached out saying, listen, we are tying up with Real Kashmir Football Club. And since you're a Kashmiri, it'll be best that you come up with something because, we want it to be authentic. And I was like, man, that's a great thought, firstly. And essentially sat down to come up with these.
Have you stayed in Kashmir? Have you ever?
Never stayed, but you would always go during summer holidays, spend time like about a
Your
month.
family there?
Yeah. So it's always a nice break to go there. But obviously, I've always been connected to my roots.
Right.
I know my Kashmiri very well. We speak in Kashmiri in house. Eat Kashmiri food. I cook Kashmiri food. So that way, I'm very, very close to my culture that way, right? And a big part of my identity, in fact, also is that, right? So coming back to this whole project of Real Kashmir Football Club, we reached to a point where, we want to talk about the culture itself, right? Because I was coming from a background of having that whole Kashmiri arts as a piece, because my dad had that business, I ended up creating a design which was essentially coming as a piece from the shawls itself, something that as an ode to the shawls, as an ode to the textiles of Kashmir. And we created something so nice that it went sold out in no time. And that was great. We created about 3 different designs. One was home, away, and another one, I think, a practice jersey. And obviously, working with those boys, both, in fact, Amber
I feel like
and
the
Ambani.
mindset and the thought that you have is so beautiful. It really translates into like everything that you do, especially something like this because it's so close to home.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the first time I was like, I need to bring in an emotion, bring in a narrative. Everything that we do has a narrative, right? So this was obviously a no-brainer that what I wanted to was, I was clear that I want to talk about culture here, celebrate the crafts that we have, celebrate our history that we have, right? So we had done 3 different designs, and one of them was celebrating crafts. Second was, the second and the third both were about the snow leopard, which is the mascot of the club as well. So it was about those. Obviously, with a lot of help from 656, building the silhouette of the jersey was something that they provided, and also them adapting my designs into what they felt would work. So it was great working with them also on that, and obviously made me into this guy who designs jerseys. Now, all of a sudden, from where I was making random jackets on a street with a random sign painter, now I'm doing jerseys.
Correct.
I don't know how that worked, but here we are, which is how Team India landed up essentially. Because prior to Team India jersey also, we had also done Rajasthan Royals IPL jerseys, right? So that also became now it was established that we do jerseys, right? Because for IPL, it's beyond just a main match day jersey. It's also training, it's also travel wear, it's also polos. Like there is a whole range of
things like these don't happen overnight. Like when you when we were researching a little bit, we came across your Instagram and we saw that like log likhte hain ki, oh, like you get such great projects, or like your journey's been so quick, and like you've been like, but there has been immense amount of work that's gone in before like these big things actually come in.
100%. And I hate it when people come and say this, भाई कितना सही काम करता, कितनी जल्दी ऊपर आ गया यार तू. Like boss, it's taken me bloody 16 years to slog every day in day out, like literally, and nothing has just come to me on a platter or on a golden plate that way. I've worked my ass to it. I've created my own opportunities for that matter, like, which is why I spoke about working with that those grassroots craftsmen working on those jackets, which has eventually led people to know that I work with clothes, which eventually led into me working on jerseys. So everything has come from a point where I have done something, and that has led to me working on these things. Which is how, obviously, me working on these two different jersey projects came to this. I was in Goa in December 2021, I think. 22.
This is the festival that you curate every year, the design Serendipity Festival.
Yeah, I don't curate, I design that. Designed 2022 and 2023. Right, 2024 we didn't do. But those 2 years when we worked on it, I tell you, on 2022 when we worked, I was in Goa, get a phone call from the Adidas office. Listen, there's a project. By now, I'd already worked with Adidas on a bunch of other stuff. That was also in between. We designed a collection with Rohit Sharma. Right, and the first time that an Indian designer is doing a collection.
Also something with Ranveer Singh.
Yes, designed a jacket for Ranveer Singh. Had painted shoes for Rohit Sharma for his cause during IPL. A lot of stuff we had already now established with Adidas, and they said, "Listen, an interesting opportunity, but you'll have to come down to Delhi."
Right.
And I was like, so when should we? It's like, kal aajo. I was like, no, I'm in Goa. I can't come right now. So, okay. They're like, office opens on 6th Jan. Why don't you come then? I was like, my God, 2 hafte wait karna padega. And obviously in my head, I was like, yaar, itna sara wait to mere se nahi hoga. Obviously, it's giving me all the jitters and getting me all like excited and curious also. Now, obviously, I start wondering what is it that it could be. So I thought maybe, it's another cool opportunity to design another collection with Adidas. Maybe this is the first time they want to design a collection with an Indian designer, because usually what happens with global brands is globally designs come and they're being sold.
Right.
But this time around, I was like, news is floating around that, Indian cricket team, the kit sponsors, the contract is ending. And in my head, I had that slight 0.5% of an inclination. Maybe they're venturing into cricket full time. But obviously, when I got there, they made us sign an NDA that, with full Sorbega note upper and, full proper. Both me and Ananda had to just sign that up. And then we're like, okay, now tell us what it is, because it's been a while. So it was that build up had obviously come in. And then we find out that, okay, they told us you had to design the cricket jerseys for the Indian cricket team. And I was like, my God, that is probably the coolest opportunity, because in India, 2 things are big. It's either Bollywood or it's damn cricket. Right? Nothing was bigger than that in this country.
It's a religion.
It is a religion, right? And for us to be able to work on that, I still remember that meeting got over. I went back to the airport because we were coming from Bombay. We were working on Lollapalooza's first edition. So I had to fly down for just one meeting. And I was going back to the airport, and I remember tears coming down purely because how big of a deal it was for me, because I've grown up watching cricket a lot. So much so that I would only... I keep saying this. If I was not a designer, I would probably be a cricketer.
Wow.
Very simple. So for me to be able to work on this was a big dream come true. 100%. To be able to do something with the national cricket team was extremely enormous as an opportunity. Obviously, as every project comes in, you have to present your designs. There are going to be 3 different designers who are also pitching at the same time. And we did what we do. And, our design got chosen. It got produced. It was presented to the team. And obviously, what happens when we present designs, feedback aata hai. Ye chota kar do, ye bada kar do, ye iska aisa hai. But here, everything was go in very first moment they saw. They said, this is perfect. They love it. No changes.
Yeah.
I was like, are you sure?
Yeah.
You don't want to move this, there? They're like, nothing. This is good to
beautiful
go.
as
And I was like, man, opportunities like these, when you get to do your best, when everyone loves, I don't know, something we have done probably right to be at this moment and to be able to just do something for the country. It's a matter of national pride.
Correct.
It's obviously something where we never felt our designs would be worn by everyone in this country. I still remember the India-Pakistan game, 150,000 people in that stadium, all of them wearing our designs, right? So that was a very, very emotional moment. Again, even today, at the airport, you see your jerseys being worn by people in metro, anywhere. It's like, hey, that's something we've done. So, it's a big deal for also a designer in this country, because as a designer, your product, is limited to certain canvases. But for it to go out there, being celebrated, being worn by people is a different feeling. And it has obviously full credit to the Adidas team for creating that jersey culture in this country. Right? Everyone wanting to go ahead and buy one, because previously it wasn't a case, right? Obviously Nike was a sponsor previously to this, but no one was going and buying that stuff. But this time around, everyone's going and buying
They also made it very accessible.
Very much so. And they also had different price points to different kinds of jerseys. So full hats off to those guys for, thinking that through. And it is a thing now, people want to buy jerseys. And also funny that, you get to see your jerseys being sold at 200 rupees. Obviously the design's messed up, but it's funny to see your design being sort of,
it's also being sold at like 4,000 right? Jockey, so this project definitely hit different for you.
Yes, it has put us on the map, to be very honest. Certain, I think, key milestones, obviously, were the money campaigns one, getting folks to 330, working with Unleashing and doing Rohit Sharma project. Then obviously it's leading to working with the Indian University, which then obviously translated us working on the India Olympic jerseys. So that also happened. So we ended up designing that as well. Again, similar process where a bunch of different design agencies, designers come in, pitch, and luckily, touchwood, ours got selected again. And obviously we present a bunch of different designs, right? It's obviously up to the authorities which ones to choose. So it's a great process to go and obviously a lot of fun for the entire studio.
So you don't like this process where many design agencies come and pitch?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Should be banned.
Tell me more about it. Tell me more about what's the design landscape like in India right now? Like, you're the top studio, but tell me what is it like on the grassroots level?
Grassroots level, I feel a lot of us get exploited because we don't set our rules. We don't put our foot down very often, right? And I don't blame everyone, because I feel no one's taking that stand together as a community. And obviously me, friends, us as designers who are probably at the same level, we try and educate kids very much enough that don't do this. Don't go out there and do things for cheap because they've come up to you saying...
Setting the standard too low.
Yeah, don't do that, because then you're ruining the ecosystem.
Correct.
Right? And for us, when we say pitches are the worst, it's like the termite out there, to be very honest. And why I say this is because ideas are our bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly.
Why should I give my idea for free? Why should I do this? That's ridiculous. I'm not going to go to a restaurant and be like, पहले आप मेरे को अपना बटर चिकन चख के दिखाओ, अच्छा लगा तो मैं आपको पैसे दूंगा. Doesn't happen in a normal world. Why should it happen in our world, right? Why is it that it's become a normal practice? Why is it that agencies are going and giving out design ideas, choose ours, pick this, pick this? Why is it that clients have made this
a regular practice?
Yeah, and for them to choose which one works.
Yeah.
Why are clients even on that pedestal where they get to choose? What makes you, someone who gets to choose to begin with? You are not a designer. You are coming from a marketing background. You're in a corporate setting. You probably don't know a thing about design. You don't know probably a thing about typography.
Correct.
Or what the thought went into it. Sure, it's your brand.
Yeah.
But then for you to be able to pick and choose purely because the other agency is willing to give you 10 more rounds of edits, that's wrong. That's exploiting.
Correct.
Right? And that's where we don't come into picture. We simply say no. If you're willing to pay for a pitch, is what I keep telling young students who are going out there, or even design studios that are young coming up now, get that money. Ask for a token amount for what you're presenting. But don't just give it out for free.
Yeah.
That's not setting a standard. That's just making it worse for everyone.
big takeaway.
Yes, and I feel like, the moment you set that guideline in place where you ask for what is rightfully yours, then everything obviously becomes a industry standard where no one goes out there and exploits designers. Because I'll tell you what, 16 years of me working in this, I didn't always have this information. I have also failed.
Correct.
I have also gone to a point where I didn't get paid by my clients purely because I didn't have contracts in place. I have also obviously messed up in the past where I didn't understand how to deal with these situations.
Right.
Probably given designs for free and never heard back. Clients ghosted me.
Yeah.
Obviously, none of that anymore happens because I've also found ways to safeguard myself.
Yeah.
Right. So that's very important for a design studio to do that. Figure a way out to how to set those things, having contracts, being professional enough to set your limits to say, okay, these are the things we are going to go and do. Beyond that, everything is going to be an extra fee. So once obviously a client sees that you're not here to obviously kid and this is very serious, the client will also respect you.
Correct.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
The moment you are professional enough to show it to your client, the client will never take you for a ride.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very important. Set that standard. Don't go around, fluffing around and just do it as it comes. Sure, you will make mistakes. We also still make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's not like I've got it all figured out. But, obviously at the root of it, we don't let agencies or we don't let clients come take us for a ride. Not going to let that happen.
Yeah. How's the client side of people? Like, are these people like well versed with design? Of course, like I understand that different companies में different लोग बैठे होते हैं जिनसे आप बात कर रहे होते हो. But what is like the general perspective, consensus के लोग कैसे हैं?
Luckily, touchwood, we're at a point in our lives where we get to pick and choose the clients, right? Which means whoever comes to us, we get to set the rules.
Yeah.
So that's a great place to be in. And I am only lucky and thankful for us to be in a situation where we can do that, right? Obviously, it wasn't always like this.
Yeah.
There was also a time where the clients would dictate what they want. And you're like, man, this is not going to work. And there was always going to be a battle where you're wanting to explain them why this doesn't work and why this works. Eventually, us as a design studio, we have to realize that we are in a service industry.
Correct.
Design is all about giving what your client wants as a service. And also design at the root of it is problem solving.
Correct.
So a client comes with a problem, you as a designer comes, solves it, and that's what our goal is. It's not about me being an artist. It's not about me saying, I want to do this. That's a wrong way to go about things, right? So always sort of try and separate the design part of it from you being an artist so you understand what your client wants. As long as that part of it is clear in your head, you'll be able to obviously deliver. Your client is always going to be happy. Obviously, I've gone through my share of not understanding at the beginning. I have also messed up.
Yeah.
Forcing my ideas onto the clients, and obviously, client will be like, "Fuck you! I'm not going to pay you."
Tell me some funny incident like on the client side of things. Like, has there been any meme that reminds you of like the clients that you deal with? Or like,
yes, there is one particular meme. Client's expectations versus client reality.
Yeah.
It also is the budget part of it, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, budget है ताजमहल बनाने का, लेकिन पैसा है कुतुब मीनार का एक मीनार बनाने का, right? That's how we always see this. There are always clients come with दुनिया बदल देंगे.
Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, ये करना है, वो करना है. But obviously the root of it is also where you have to realize, boss, पैसा लगता है चीज बनाने का. अगर है तो मजा आएगा, नहीं है तो आपको उतना ही मिलेगा.
Correct.
Right. So that's something obviously where unfortunately it is the icebreaker in that part where which clients never realize that कि सबका पैसा लगता है. Obviously, lucky that we've had clients where we end up presenting ideas where they get excited and they pay. For example, the Adidas project.
Right.
There are also parts where they say this is out of our budget. So what we do, yes, we will present 20 ideas. We will scale it down to, let's say, they only have money for 3. So we will still do 3. So it's not like we will not present you 20 ideas. We'll still give you 20 ideas because भरा है creativity. तो दो ना दिखाओ सब क्या कर सकते हैं. It always works in multiple favors. But here is where with clients, funny story obviously is that, we come up with a budget of, let's say, 20 rupees, 5 रुपए का budget है, कैसे कम करे. So again, a design exercise that we have to internally see which out of the 30 ideas, 3 ideas are the ones that will still make an impact, will make it still feel like it's an experience that we've curated and created. No one obviously knows what went behind into the whole design discussions, but what we end up doing on ground is obviously somewhere we end up, delivering our best that way. But multiple different stories where clients frustrate us.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Only because I feel like, people think, हाँ, color ही तो change करना है ना?
Correct.
ये यहाँ से वहीं तो करना है. But, it's obviously funny for, I've gone through this my entire life. I feel now that, I give them what they know, what they want. And essentially, we skip that part of us going into that circle of, revisions after revisions after revisions. But there are also times when there'll be too many cooks from the client side.
Right.
Intern भी आके कुछ बोलेगा, marketing वाला भी आके कुछ बोलेगा. Everyone has a say. These are the times when we are like, boss, this client is not fun to work with.
Yeah.
There is not one authoritative voice in this team. We cannot work with this team. You can. Let's not do this again. So there have been times when we work with clients, we've done our best, but then again, the process of working with these clients has been just, it's just been horrific. It's just been a nightmare to work with because, we as a studio take pride in systems.
Correct.
We are full systematic.
Yeah.
If I've said आज 5 बजे मिलेगा आपको काम, मैंने कल बना के ready रखा है कि आपको कल 5 बजे वो time पे मिलेगा. Right? But at the same time, if I'm not getting to hear back from you for feedback, then you're wasting your time. What that entails is you wasted that time of you giving me that feedback. Deadline's coming closer. Now I have to stay up all night to finish this.
Correct.
Because of you not responding on time. So these are the times when we get frustrated, boss. Why are people not doing their job?
Correct.
And obviously, us as a design studio, we all obviously bond together on this one.
So a lot of people don't understand this again, na, कि what you do, that it requires so much professionalism.
100%.
And why you get the projects that you do,
Yes.
it is fucking grit and work and like so many things that actually go in.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we take pride in this.
Yeah.
Like being professional.
Yeah.
Setting systems in place. Understanding the tax system of this country. Being sure of how much your billing should have TDS deducted at. Is it 2%, 10%? We are very well aware of everything.
Tell me about the businessman Aaquib now, like the entrepreneur.
Ooh, fun stuff. I feel designing to me is probably the easiest part of my job.
Sure.
Because I've been doing it for 16 years. It comes naturally to me. Put me in a situation, you have 2 hours to present something, I'll come up with something very cool. I know for a fact the client will love it. I know this will work for them. I'll come up with a narrative, I'll come up with a story, बेच के आऊँगा. That's the design sales part of me that I'll know for a fact I'll do it. Coming to the business end of it, the admin side of it.
Yes.
आज ऑफिस में लाइट नहीं है, आज पानी नहीं आ रहा, आज कोई छुट्टी पे है, आज इसको काम करने का मन नहीं कर रहा. How do I keep up with that? So there's an everyday battle that we have to obviously fight between me and Andrita, obviously, and that's a thing that obviously gets tough, takes a toll on us because you didn't think that this would be a part of my job process. Really, I felt designer gets to wear cool clothes, gets to be on stage, does fun TED talks, does this, that, gets to hang out with the celebs. But at the core of it, this is what I do.
Correct.
Right, figuring out things.
Plumbing. Yes.
Yeah, आज पानी क्यों नहीं आ रहा? आज सफाई क्यों नहीं हुई? आज why is the internet not working? बिल क्यों नहीं भरा? Like, obviously, this is the part of what things that people don't talk about.
Correct.
No one talks about it because it's the dirty job.
Exactly.
Right? No one glorifies about this because this is essentially what is the foundation of a design.
सबको Instagram पे तो देख के रखते हैं तो Virgil Abloh है.
Yeah, but obviously उसके पीछे किसी को नहीं दिख रहा है. एक दिन झाड़ू भी मैं ही लगा रहा हूँ क्योंकि सफाई करने वाला कोई आया नहीं. तो I don't mind doing that either, because these are things I feel I want to be sure of as a design studio. I want to be able to give it to my team.
Correct.
Create an ecosystem for the team which is a good place to work for everyone. So we have to be obviously mindful for everything.
Absolutely.
So obviously we do all of that as well. And then everything else is a part of it, right? Obviously, I feel the entire day goes into setting up meetings, phone calls, understanding what a client wants. When do I have the time to sit and design with my team? Right? So you obviously have to figure a way out to divide your time up. There are times when everyone else leaves.
Are you good at time blocking?
I am not.
Yeah.
But thanks to my team, thanks to Andrita, she's obviously set this up in a beautiful way there. I don't have to worry about what is to be presented at what time to a client. Everything has already been set into place. The team knows, everyone's fully into it. So, obviously...
Are you the presenter when it comes to
Yes,
clients?
I present. So I take them through things. There are times, obviously, I also let the team to also do it because I would also want them to learn and grow. So they also feel a part of what they're doing is something that we're doing together. And I'm not the one who's always going to be presenting to the client. So First meetings, obviously, I'll take them through once it's okay, and then they can take it on when it comes to obviously discussing revisions and things and on all of that. So they also get to also grow along with it.
You work on a lot of projects, right? Like, how do you shift your focus from one to the other to the third, and like, how is that all of that happening? Because it's at the end of the day, the design studio is Aaquib Wani design. It's not X. So I know it requires art direction, creative direction from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the Rick Rubin in the studio.
Yeah, it's the ADHD in me that allows me to actually work on multiple projects at a given time. The fact that I could never concentrate on my studies and do everything else apart from that was actually that. It's only unfortunate that I could never figure out that was the reason why I was not being able to focus in class.
Yeah.
But obviously later, when getting diagnosed, I understood this is what it caused. Obviously, a lot of times I've been able to think of 20 other things, which is not also on the list of things to do.
Right.
Right. I'm still thinking of things right now, apart from, let's say, 20 projects that I'm working on a personal project. Purely because I feel I want to do something else as well, right? Sometimes the projects you're also doing makes you feel it's getting a bit mundane, even though the projects we do are new, they're exciting. But at the same time, I'll also go back home, I'll have an idea, I'll quickly write it down. There are days when I get ideas during my sleep. I wake up and I write that instantly.
You have to. Correct.
There are days when we're working on projects, we're probably stuck. Maybe while pooping in the morning, I get an idea, instantly write it down, send a message to the team, this is what I want. Or send myself a voice note early morning that this is what we should do. My brain works 24/7.
Exactly.
Right? It does not stop.
Do you get time for yourself? Like, do you get time to, like, say, read a book or find
I
some
can't read a book because I can't.
Okay.
I may be reading, but it's not registering in my head. So I obviously don't want to kid myself and be like, I read books and sound intellectual. I don't. I
Yeah.
will definitely buy books for the studio, buy cool graphic design visual books where visuals are nice to look at, so I don't have to read. Sure, I will read. I would love to try and pay more attention to it, but at the same time, you know, it is a task for me, to be very honest. But I do obviously will watch stuff. Even while watching, I will be on my phone. So that's just my brain not being able to focus on one thing. I struggle with it. I still struggle with it. But it's a, big deal that I've not checked my phone in the last 90 minutes or so.
But are you a big phone user? Do you go through?
Yeah, I have what at times in the most hectic time of the year, my screen time is about 14 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All devices.
All devices put together, because it's all Apple, right? So it shows you 14 hours, even 16 hours a day. So all of that does take a mental toll on you. But there are days when I switch off. How do I switch off? I go for walks.
Yeah.
I love that.
You keep your phone away during that time.
No, I do still use it.
क्योंकि मीम तो देखने हैं ना bro. मीम तो
Have to shit post.
Exactly.
But I love going for walks. I love cleaning.
Yeah.
A big part of me is a clean freak.
Yeah.
I am in love with my Dyson vacuum.
Yeah.
Even though this is not a branded plug.
Yeah.
But I love
Now it's
cleaning.
a branded plug. Now Dyson is going to send you stuff, bro, for your beautiful hair and like for everything.
I know, right? Everyone obviously wants to know the secret of it. I'm sure you do.
Yes, I 100% do.
But yeah, that's how I really switch off from things. Cleaning, cooking, going for walks. This is my time to switch off and just be able to focus on something that I want to. If there's something that's bothering me at work, turn it off, just do your thing. And that really allows me to sort of be in my own sense. It's very meditative process for me. So these are like hacks that have worked for me. May not work for all, but these are things that, help me sort of calm my brain that's running.
Correct. There are two polar opposites to your personal brand. One is the classy work that you see, folks 30 under 30, this guy. And then you open you put the stories on. And there's some fucking wacky shit going on. And then there's Aaquib sending me stuff like Prime Video पे genre को genre बोल दिया. Like, भाई, कहाँ तुम कुछ और ही content चल रहे हैं.
Yeah, you need to have fun, right? You can't just be so serious about your life.
Exactly.
Right? And I obviously, my Instagram is my personality, right? I don't want it to become another design studio that does cool work and it's only about the work.
Correct.
Then it's not personal. Then you're not connecting with people and you're not being able to be you. You are being a corporate setup presenting your work. But rather I'm like, I want to be me. बकचोदी करनी यार. I want to have fun.
Exactly. Authenticity is a key
shit post.
part.
I want to curate stuff. Like the memes that I post,
Yeah.
I'm spending time on the internet.
Right.
So I'll find something funny, screenshot and upload it.
Yeah.
Twitter, go to there and find something funny, upload it. Like, you
Yeah.
know, just like stuff that I find funny and put it together. Even though if it's not fun stuff, it's also informative stuff that I put
Correct.
together. So again, also like to obviously shoot a lot of videos,
Yeah.
click photos. So I like to edit them before I put them. So, you know, I enjoy that process. That's my own social media time.
Yeah.
So even on, let's say, a LinkedIn, there's a different side of me on LinkedIn. So I'm talking more about work there. I'm
Correct.
talking more about
The projects that you've
yes,
done. the thoughts
and
you have.
beyond that, also trying to spark a conversation about things that bother us as designers. So
Correct.
right now in my LinkedIn era, talking about all of that, if
Yeah.
you see what's happening. So yeah, again, lots of things. I keep myself busy. Also very important to be consistent. Being out there, because I feel that also is a big part of us being able to score projects.
Correct.
Not just for me, I feel everyone has to do that.
Yes.
Out of sight is equal to out of mind, right? So I feel the more you're out there to put your work is also equally related to you also being around people, sort of also connect with you on a different level that way, right? So it's also important, which is when, you know, a lot of these young kids come to me at these college events that I go to and give talks. They always come to me as like, give me one advice. And I'm like, be consistent.
Yeah.
Put your work out there.
Yeah.
Even if it means it's bad, just do it. Just put it. You know, if it doesn't click with 5, it will probably click with the 5 other people that you never thought of.
Right.
And, you know, it's design. It's subjective. 10 may like it, 10 may not. But the 10 who like it will probably give you something.
Correct.
So there's always a way out. There's always opportunities out there. You just have to be out there.
Yeah.
You can't just be sitting and wondering, okay, oh, it looks nice, but no, I don't want to put this. Obviously, there are lots of conflicting thoughts that, you know, oh, this is not the style I really want to present. I would simply say it's just Instagram, dude.
Yeah.
You'll get 10 likes lesser.
Yeah.
Does not matter.
Yeah.
Hide your likes. It's okay. Just put it out there at least. You know, it will connect with someone and it will probably turn into an opportunity that you never thought it would.
Yeah.
So yes, forget it. Forget it not looking nice. Forget it not being up to the standards of the cool design industry, because my designer friends probably will not like it or any. Just forget it, man. Just do your thing. Put it out there. It's okay.
Yeah.
5 likes आएंगे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता यार.
Yeah.
But keep it consistent.
I feel like that's what made Aaquib Wani Aaquib Wani. It was taking one day at a time,
Yes.
being consistent, being out there. All the great work that you see that he's been putting out today is fucking 15 years of hard work. Great. I keep coming back to it. Like just being there every day, showing up.
Yes,
and
that's
getting
what
the
it
fucking
is.
work
And
done.
really, I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
You know, we're still doing that where we just see, there's that one saying, very cliche, in order to keep moving, you have to keep moving.
Exactly.
And that's all I do. Like, you know, for a bicycle to move, you have to keep pedaling, right? That's all I've been doing essentially, and taking one project after the other, keeping ourselves busy, and cool opportunities will fall into your lap. So that's bound to happen. Just be at it, be consistent. We've not just worked on all these cool projects. Before this, we worked on 1,000 projects. Maybe 200 of them failed. Obviously, there's failure a part of it, which is what we can also probably, you know, obviously my journey started off with failure. So I've so used to it that it is a part of your growth. So yeah.
Aaquib, to put an end to this, if there was a film that was made about your life, who would play the main character?
Wow, never thought of it really. I don't know, man. It could really be a newcomer, to be very honest. That's how I see myself. Someone who came from no background, came from no education, someone who didn't know this would be my industry. So I think any newcomer would be great, because again, for that newcomer also, it could be a good way to sort of present their talent. So I think,
and what would the title be?
आधा रोटी खाएंगे, सर नहीं झुकाएंगे.
Hey! High note, guys. Okay, beautiful.
Amazing.
Cheers, bro. Aaquib,
Cheers.
thank you so much for doing this. How was it of the XTCY? I did this the morning, no? So
Maybe it works.
इन्होंने ना basically scheme लगाई हुई है कि free sneaker मिलेगा तो कभी जा ही नहीं सकता.
Oh, something's happening.
Whoa! Ecstasy!
Here.
Okay, give Aaquib another shot.
It is the ecstasy. It is the ecstasy, dude.
We got it.